Hey, quick video about Jacobus Arminius. I think he changed his name later in his life. I think it was called a few different things, but Jacobus Arminius was this Dutch guy. He was born basically the generation after Calvin. Like when Calvin died, Arminius was, I think, 4 years old or something like that. And so he was this guy from the Netherlands, and he actually studied in Geneva at a school that John Calvin started. That was ran by, after Calvin's death, his successor. I don't remember the name of the successor, but Arminius studied under the successor. But anyways, when he got older, he became a minister and, like a pastor. And he was asked one day to basically write some stuff defending Calvinism, and then he's like, okay. And so he tried to study some things out, and then he realized that, there's a bunch of error in Calvinism. And he found that he couldn't defend his Calvinism. Surprise, surprise, right? And so it seems like at first he tried to reform some stuff and write articles and papers and stuff. And, the more hardcore Calvinists got mad at him and they argued. And eventually he started pulling out more. And they kept arguing. And then it ends up where, and I'm going to skip the part of all the violent stuff, okay? Because, you can just read the history of, anywhere Calvinists are, how violent they are, if they have any sort of political power, but let me not talk about that right now. Basically what eventually ends up happening is after, if I remember correctly, I think it was after Arminius died, soon after, the people that believed like him came up with 5 points. And in response to that, the Calvinists came up with 5 points, which I think originally it was 7, but then they combined some points. And, so the 5 points of Calvinism were a reaction to the 5 points of the Arminius, that basically the Arminius people, they did their 5 points as a reaction and trying to explain why they believed Calvinism was wrong. And then the Calvinists got mad and came up with their 5 points and put it on paper and stuff. And then if you ever heard of the Westminster Confession, it's just a bunch of Calvinist garbage. And there was a Council of Droid or something like that in the Netherlands that also was a bunch of Calvinist garbage. But the Calvinists really hold up those two, papers and events and stuff as really a big thing. And they basically think that stuff like the Westminster Confession is true Christianity and whatnot. But anyways, back to Arminius. I've heard some people claim that after he got out of Calvinism, that he got saved, and that after his death, that his followers just totally botched eternal security and the gospel and stuff like that. Now, I wouldn't wish hell on anybody. But I don't I couldn't find any information regarding Arminius to know for sure if he was saved. It seems to lean more towards where he kept a view of perseverance of the saints and just kind of twisted and modified that view to make it more in his mold. But it you know, because even nowadays, like, you run into some people that are Arminian, like, where they claim that they can't lose their salvation. But then if you talk to them, you figure out that the reason they think that has nothing to do with the gospel, that they think they can't lose their salvation because in their minds they think that they stop sinning and that they're persevering until the end. And there's not biblical eternal security. I talked a little bit about that in my previous video. So, you know, there are like some writings of Arminius talking about eternal security, like quotes and stuff. I mean, there's probably more, you know, stuff he wrote at length, which, you know, I haven't found access to that or whatever. But I've seen some of his quotes about where he's claiming like he's never taught that salvation could be lost. But again, if he believed if he kept kind of Calvinism's perseverance of the saints and just modified it a little bit, you know, he didn't, you know, he's trusting in his own works. So, you know, who knows for sure whether or not he was saved. But the people that came after him, you know, just made it even more confusing, you know. You know, of course, you know, Calvinists denying free will, it's just unbiblical. But a lot of the Arminians went to another extreme where they thought that you had so much free will that you could walk away from your salvation. That's not true either. Okay, so that's another, you know, wrong thing about how the Arminians think. And then a lot of them also just straight up come out and say and try to teach that you could lose your salvation. That's wrong too. You know, both systems are wrong. And regarding Jacobus Arminius' own soul, you know, like, again, I wouldn't wish hell on my worst enemy, and I don't really know what Jacob Arminius himself, you know, like, I don't know if he ever believed the gospel, you know, but if somebody could take a bunch of his writings and learn a bunch of weird heresies, you know, like the people that call themselves, you know, Arminian, like they're bona fide heretics, okay? And you know, if I ever wrote a bunch of books or something, you know, the people who read my books and claim to believe similar things that I believe, they're not going to be bona fide heretics. I can tell you that. Okay. They'd believe the gospel of Jesus Christ. They'd believe in eternal security. They'd understand that, you know, the church in Israel are different. They'll understand that Jesus Christ is our sanctification. You know, they'll understand that, you know, Jesus Christ died for everybody, and that, you know, God predestined some things, but we also have free will. And, you know, God wants everybody to believe the gospel. He's not willing that any should perish. And he wants us to give the gospel to every creature. Okay, things like that. But anyways, you know, every time I try to read about Calvinism and Arminianism, they both make me want to vomit. So, you know, I said I kind of, you know, thinking about doing a video about Jacobus Arminius. This is kind of the video on him. Anyways, you know, watch out for the Arminian false teachings of, you know, their modified version of perseverance of the saints, their extreme view of free will, where they think you could maybe walk away from your salvation, and some of them also basically pretending to believe in eternal security, but saying that it's like, oh, because they don't sin anymore or whatever, and then some other Arminians saying, you know, some of them other just come out and say that you can lose your salvation. You know, those are people that think they get saved every Tuesday or something. You know what I mean? Like it's, and they have to get resaved next Tuesday because they lost it on Wednesday or whatever. You know, and regarding the other 5 points of Arminianism, I really don't care what they are. I don't remember like every single point, but I do think they believe Jesus Christ died for everybody, but which would, you know, if they believe that, that's true, okay, and it's biblical. Jesus Christ died for everybody, but you know, but my point is like if they're wrong on so many other things, like I don't even care of some things they might be right about. You know what I mean? I don't listen to preachers that claim that they're Armenian and stuff or anything like that. But also, you know, for some reason, it does seem like more people, you know, call themselves Calvinists. They call themselves Arminians. Like they might believe Arminian doctrine, but they don't come out and say that they're Arminian. A lot more people who believe in Calvinist doctrines, for some reason, come out and say that they're a Calvinist, compared to an Arminian that espouses, you know, some of the Arminian points and stuff. But they might not just come out and say that they're Arminian. And also remember, the points came out, you know, after Arminian died. But Arminius died. Anyways, take care.